The setting for the Tuatha Deanu's arrival in recorded history is mainly confined to ancient Ireland, Eire, Erin, Eru. They arrived in Ireland on Beltane, May Day, concealed in a magical fog or mist, while the European mainland was to the east of Ireland. According to lore, the Tuatha Deanu arrived from the north and west of the island, and they settling the mountains of western Ireland. This led many to believe that they were the people of the north, or that they came from the Atlantic Ocean somewhere. Their ships, on the other hand, were said to be of a sky nature, which somehow caused an uncanny solar eclipse for 3 days of their arrival. This could be a reference to a thick fog that cloaked their ships or enveloped them when reaching the harbor. It might also be interpreted as something more akin to an aircraft, but the ancient Celtic manuscripts record that they intentionally destroyed their ships in flames upon landing. Ireland was already inhabited by an Elven-Ffayrie race at the time, being another descendant from the blue folk called the Fabog, translated perhaps too literally as the men of bags. The Fabog were forced to take shelter as a result of the 3 days of smoke, fog, mist that affected Ireland. Needless to say, they interpreted the Danubian arrival as an invasion of hostility, and a war ensued between the two fairy races. In surveying the histories until now, we have been able to, supplement somewhat, in reference to lore or writings. For this, the Celtic sources are perhaps most useful. Some modern writers have a habit of sometimes confusing members of this class with their adversaries, the Fabog, and some unschooled practitioners do call on warriors of both sides equally in their magical word simultaneously. This is just kind of something that we find part of Celtic revivals and what forth. But probably, I think, manuscripts that would be of use in the Celtic fairy tradition, the Book of Invasions, Book of Leinster, Book of Duncow. There's the Alchemists' Book of Ballymote, or the Scholar's Primer, and the Bardus of the Bardic Druids. There are some scholars and metaphysical writers who sometimes get confused by this common spelling of the tribe, the Tuatha De Dannan, and mistakenly align these Elven-Ffayrie solely to Dana, derived from Diana, the Roman forest huntress. The present emphasis that we use with the Mardukite tradition, particularly trying to tie back with Sumerian lore, Danu, Deanu, the Danube River. To call them the Dannan might be to confuse them with the Danes, who are the Elven-Ffayrie of the Scandinavian Norse Vikings and the Svi, or Svades. So when the Romans encountered a Danubian clan in Scotland, they actually called them the Picts, or the Pict Sidhe, which is where one of the more famous pop culture titles develop. And why would the Romans refer to a group of Elven-Ffayrie as the Pixies? Which, by the way, does not have anything to do with being small. The root Pict and Pix, as you should be familiar with these days, relates to pictures and pixels, which is to call them the painted people, making a reference to their tribal use of tattooing. Their use of body art was considered sacred. and not taken as lightly as it is by humans. But the Tuatha De Danann had a cultural and magical tradition that far surpassed all that they had encountered prior, and they would leave a tremendous impression on like the Celtic Motine culture as they made their way, with the coming of them, the ritual, ceremonial magic, aligned to elementalism, the transitions between a threefold and fourfold and different visions of elementalism, which we will explore the elemental schemas. But so there's also the gifts of Faerie, these objects or artifacts that seem tied in not only with as amulets of power in Celtic lore, but with the ritual and ceremonial magic and tools that we find in modern practices today. Like in elemental magic, the alignment to the directions. They talk about the gifts of Faerie, like the Stone of Fall from the northern city of Fallius, which stone, earth, north, these are all magical correspondences that interconnect and will become much more apparent when we get into the elementalism that's explored in Elven magic.